Hey, Chris,
Hey, Randy.
what's it like in the future?
It's pretty cool, man. I could tell you what you're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
You're
else?
going to be dumb.
What else?
Why do I hang out with you guys?
Well then,
Randy's on one.
Well, then.
whatever that means. So how's the future? For real? What's up? Why don't you tell us
yeah.
about
You know, I'm tired. It is the future. 14 hours ahead, 13 for you on the East Coast. It is what it is, man. I'm tired, bro. Look at these eyes. They are heavy. Doing the job.
24-hour day.
Yeah, it wasn't very fun. But you know what? I adapted. Ooh, from the last episode, I
You
listened to it.
You
even though
weren't
I wasn't
here.
on it. I know, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's a good crew of people. I know a lot of people out here, a bunch of friends, and everyone's being positive. So I feel like I can bring our lessons learned from the podcast and life in general from the past year and create a positive environment down here, and it's great. I won't say where I'm at yet because, you know, stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Nice.
OPSEC. Yeah, sick.
Sick.
Living life. Yeah, future. It's cool. You guys are going to do big things in the next 12 hours.
I'm gonna sleep.
Yeah, you guys are going to sleep. But yeah, so today's topic, Randy, back to you.
Oh, he's gonna throw it back.
Ooh.
Caught it. Today's topic, we're gonna be talking about red flags. What to look out for when you're in a relationship, or if you're aspiring to be in a relationship with someone, and how to avoid heartbreak and disappointment. So, Chris, we know.
Ooh, back to me.
Back to I'm throwing it right back. Toss it over.
Ping pong.
13 hours ahead. Throwing it into the future.
Let's go. Oh, it's back.
It's
It's
back.
here. It got here.
It took a
Okay.
minute because I had to travel 13 hours into the future. But
I need
I
more
got it.
scotch.
Hello? Yes, this is Randy. Okay, cool. It's back to me. Sick. Yeah, red flags, right? So I'm sure we've all been there. Everybody's been there where you're trying to date, you know, you're single, dating. This is why, hence, Talon is not on the show because he's already been here, done that. He's married. He's done it. He won the game. But for us peasants,
pheasants.
Pheasants.
us birds. Yeah, it's difficult, right? Like you try to date, right, and you kind of ignore the facts that are laid out in front of you early on because you want something that isn't quite there, and you almost try to fool yourself that it is what you want, and it's not. So, red flags, how to notice them early on, and can you work for them? Can you overcome them? Or do you call it quits? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, with that being said, who wants to kick it off?
Well, I think with one of the first things you said, people tend to fall in love with the idea of the initial chasing phase and kind of like romanticize things like too early. Yeah, that's a big red flag right there. If someone starts professing their love to you on the first date, that's a no-go.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it? I don't know if you guys have been there, but I've been there, and it was a little strange, man.
Yeah.
I've
It's
been there
awkward.
where I've been talking to a girl for maybe like a week or two, and maybe only hung out once, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to go out with me?" I'm like, hold on, slow down a second. Like, we've only been talking.
Slow your roll.
Just hung out with you one time. I'm not that cute. I thank you though.
Yeah, you're not. As long as you know.
Not even swole.
Yeah,
I know.
you're small.
I'm small boy.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. It's like, and on the other end, like, if you are that person, right? Because, I mean, I've fantasized about stuff. Like, I thought something was going somewhere where it wasn't. And, you know, you got to slow down. It's not what you want it to be. You have to look at the truth of things, right? And Mark Groves, Create the Love, you know, we talk about him all the time, share stuff all the time on Instagram. He's talked about this a lot, and he has a lot of good points on dating, and he does, like, courses for dating. So, you know, I'm promoting him, even though he has no idea who we are.
Check it.
But it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a good page.
Yeah. So just listen to the truth. Like, you ignore it when you really just gotta like look at the facts. Like, okay, this person is coming on way too hard, or I am being way too unrealistic with things. Like, maybe they're ignoring me, and I don't want to address the fact that they haven't texted me back or called me back, or like they only want to text versus call, or like little stuff like that. It's red flags, right? Like, if they're not giving you the attention that you deserve, maybe it's not right, and maybe you should stop pursuing it so hard.
Yeah, I like that. A point that I just thought of, because I know, like, this point, it's kind of, there are going to be some red flags that are super obvious. You know, everyone knows it. You hear it all the time. But one that I thought of that I don't think is taught too much and that isn't common knowledge is pay attention to how they treat people in public.
Ooh, that's a good.
Yeah,
one.
And
that's a good one.
Okay.
I think that's a good indicator of how they are going to treat you when they're in a bad mood. Yeah, I mean, if they're like rude to the waiter, or if they don't even pay attention, like don't make eye contact or acknowledge them, or like even a worker in a grocery store, pay attention to those things. And I think that can tell you a lot about how they'll treat you at
Yeah.
some point.
I've heard for girls, if you watch how a guy actually talks or treats his mom, that's a great indication of how he's going to treat you, because that's the main woman in his, well,
Is everyone looking at me right
maybe
now?
not in Chris's situation.
Is everyone just looking at me right now?
No, I was looking at Chris.
Yeah.
Well, see,
I
no,
feel
you're a jokester. When you treat your mom the way
Yeah.
you do, like you love her and you just joke around with her. So I could imagine you doing that with your wife.
This is
one
true,
day.
but I definitely got on her nerves like all the
Yeah,
time.
100%. That's just who you are.
You would have one of
So-
those prank YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you watch how a guy treats his mom, like the number one female in his life, that's a good indication of how that man is going to treat you.
Yeah, that is a good point. Now, it's not 100% true,
Not 100%.
as, but no,
Okay,
that is a
Chris.
good point. And like, you're wrapping them both together. Like, how do they treat other people behind closed doors? How are they as a person, right? If they're crazy, if they're rude, like that's just a huge red flag to me. You know, I've been with on dates where people were like just loud and obnoxious and just rude, and I'm like, instantly I was like, I need to get out of here. Like, this is not for me. I'm done wasting my time. It's been like an hour, and I can already tell you that this is not going to work. You know, it's stuff like that. That's huge, man. Like, that's probably my number one thing that I look for is how do you treat others? Because there's no changing that, right? Like, you can work
Yeah.
on that and work on that and work on that, but deep down, they've been through something that they don't respect others for, and that's strange. I don't know, and it gets to this point that I mentioned earlier. Like, do you try to stick it out? Do you try to have these conversations with someone and just tell them? And for me, I've done that. I'd be like, hey, I noticed this is how you act. I noticed this is who you are. Why is there a disconnect? Like, why do you act one way, and then like when it's just me and you act like you're really nice? So what's going on here? There's a mask that you're wearing, and I don't like it, and I think it's immature a little bit. And you know, the
Yeah.
answer I got was like, that's just who I am, and it's not. So
Yeah, I
it's
think
stuff like that.
a lot of that behavior and how they, you know, if they disrespect people in public, which not even acknowledging someone is disrespecting them.
Right.
You could at least give eye contact, acknowledge that they're a person. That can do a lot for a person, especially if they're in a depressed state of mind. But
Right.
yeah, maybe that's because of how they were raised, or like the environment that they grew up in. They had to kind of be more defensive. And I mean, that's okay, but there's not much you can do to change that. And with these red flags, yeah, some of them might be like, you know, you might be dating someone who has one of these red flags that we'll mention, and it'll be like minor. It won't be, you know, they completely disrespect someone on purpose. But if they have a little bit of one of these red flags, then it could be okay if they check all the other boxes, but they're called red flags for a reason. So you need to watch out. It's usually behavior that can't be changed.
Well, I think that's important why you still should have that conversation with them, because you can also gauge how they react to the conversation.
All right.
Because sometimes
Nice.
sometimes you'll bring something up to somebody like that and they genuinely don't realize that they act a certain way in certain situations. And sometimes it's a moment of realization where they say, wow, I didn't know I did that. And that's something they can work on. But then, if they get defensive with you when you have the conversation, then maybe it's something that you have to watch out for more. That's when the red flag really goes up.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like, if they take steps and improve, like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Like, can you give me more examples of like how I've done that, how I've acted like that? That's a green flag. That's like, shit, they're listening. They're willing to take advice, right?
Yeah.
Or
Willingness
even just
to
see what they
change.
do.
Yeah.
See what they,
Yeah,
they might just take it with a grain of salt, but see what they do next time.
Right.
You
Yeah.
brought it
Do
up.
they just talk or do they actually
Right.
take action?
Yeah, and at that point, then you have someone of quality, because even if there is a red flag, they're working on bettering themselves, and that's great. Instead of someone who, this is just who I am, like stubborn, doesn't want to change. At that point, it's not worth your time even like trying to. It's very difficult. But you do have to gauge that. And the first thing I would say is have that conversation, like bring it up to them very politely, right? Like I said to this one person, I was like, I just said before, like, I see this and I see this. Well, like, clearly you're a good person, but you're not acting like that all the time. So you can't just backhand them like, hey, you suck, right? It's like, hey, I see this good side of you. So why is there a disconnect? Like, what's going on? If they shut down, they shut down. Like, you can try, maybe one other time. But other than that, like, you can't change people. You gotta let them realize their actions.
This is true.
But I mean, if you're early on in a relationship, you can take that red flag, and I mean, if they show signs of another red flag, then it might be best to just not waste your time.
Yeah, put it in your back pocket and see what happens. See how many you stack up.
Well,
Hopefully you don't stack up a whole lot.
hopefully you're smart enough to realize, oh shit, there's 18 red flags in my pocket. It's getting a little heavy.
My pants are falling down.
It's weighing me down.
Yeah. But that's important, right? So, talking about the fantasizing of stuff, like, you can get caught up in your own brain too. Have you boys ever done that where it's like, I know this person's not right for me, but I'm still going to try and date them. I still want to talk to them, and I want to make it what I want it to be, even though it's not. So you've been there, Randy?
Oh, yeah. No, I do. I tend to do that a lot. That's definitely a flaw of mine where I like, and I'll talk more about it after. I don't want to talk about it on here, but it's something like I'm kind of talking to someone right now, and I keep checking myself in my brain so that I don't do that, because I know it's something that I tend to do where it's like I start talking to this person, I start to develop a relationship, and next thing I know in my head I'm like, I'm going to marry this person.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes something it's not, because at that point when you get to that point, you can't seem to tell yourself, okay, they don't seem interested in you. Like, you let the excuses be excuses. You don't realize that they are actually excuses. To like, I'll use this for example. This is probably the best example of something that I tend to do. Is, someone will say, "Oh, I'll hang out with you." Cool. And then when it comes time to do it, they're like, "Oh, I can't. I have to do this. I can't. I have to do that." And then you just try and rationalize it in your head, like, "Oh, they're too busy. Oh, they have schoolwork. Oh, they have this." But then when it's an excuse every time, it's suddenly, that's when it should click that it's like, okay, maybe this person is really busy, but if they really cared that much, they would make time for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
I actually had that happen to me. There was a girl I met at the casino, and I was talking to her. I hit it off pretty well. We were just talking over text for a few weeks actually, and I planned to hang out with her one time, and she said something came up, we'll do it again soon. I'm like, all right, that's fine, no biggie. Second time came up, I scheduled a date, and she's like, yep, I'll be there. Day came, sorry, can't make it again. I'm like, at this point, I talked to some of my friends that like just called her off. I'm like, I'm gonna be generous. I'll go one more shot, be like, hey, you choose a date and a time. do it. I'll make myself available for you, right? And she's like, okay, this day, this time. Day came, didn't hear a word from her, didn't hear anything from her. I'm like, all right, done, walking away. I'm not gonna.
That's
not
3
gonna
strikes.
pursue that.
Smart.
Yep.
Yeah,
Any-
that's
Straight
smart.
Any of y'all ever get straight up stood up?
Like,
no, actually,
Before
I haven't.
before we continue on, I want to address the fantasization. Fantasize.
Yeah. That's a
I
hard
can't
word. It
It's
doesn't
a word.
it doesn't come
Stop saying
organically.
it.
I could tell you that much.
It's the Scotch. It's the Scotch. I'm sorry. But like creating this fantasy in your mind. There you go. Do you think that some of that is because of girls tending to reject more guys? Like
No.
being rejected more? No.
No, rejection doesn't hurt, dude. I wish for a black and white answer, you know? Like I don't,
Yeah.
you know, not everyone's interested and I know that and I'm not interested in everyone and that's cool too. It's like black and white answer, man. That's all I look for. I'm not afraid of getting rejected. I don't want to say it's a numbers game, but I mean, you'll probably be rejected way more than you will be accepted. So you just got to know that. It's like learning from your failures, right? Like if I get rejected, oh well, Well, I'll just move on, right? It wasn't for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, I think all of us, well, I mean, all of us here at least, I can't speak for all guys, have tended to create this fantasy when we meet someone who we're really attracted to. And I think some of it can be attributed towards social media and, you know, going on social media and you see all these happy couples and you want that. And, you know, maybe you've gotten rejected. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you're perfect like Chris. I'm
not.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think maybe that can, I mean, this is how I see it. Maybe it can make you want to have that, to have what other people are having on social media. And that's what creates that fantasy.
Like we've talked about in the past.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
Yeah, you gotta take it day by day and like your own pace, and you know, like they're fake relationships on social media. Like that's just what it is. Everything on that is fake, right? That's why, again, bringing that whole episode, I think that was one of our strongest episodes. Is we had a lot of good points, right? Like follow people that have content that is worth your time. Follow people who post a picture of them happy and describe, hey, yes, I look happy. I am happy right now, but this is what it took to get to this point. There's been struggles. You know, a lot of people are doing that now and being a lot more open on social media versus just following like Instagram models or like, you know, for girls too, right? Like you might look up to certain guys that are just pieces of crap. Like, you know, you got to understand it's not all real. So follow people who are worth your time and help you grow as a person and like highlight the struggles that it took to get to that happy place.
Yeah. I want to circle back to what I was saying about getting stood up because it actually plays to my previous point. This happened, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago now. I was talking to this girl. We set up a date. I texted her a little while beforehand, and I said, hey, are you still good to go? And I didn't get an answer. So I was like, So I texted her friend, who I was also friends with, and I said, hey, I texted her. I'm supposed to go out on a date with her in like an hour. You know, I didn't hear back from her. Do you know, like, what she's up to? And she's like, no, I think she's at work. I was like, okay. You can't always answer your phone at work. So I go to the restaurant. I'm sitting there waiting for her. Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, it was straight up stood up.
Oh, man.
Ugh.
It's like the first episode of New Girl.
So I get straight up stood up by this girl. Like, never shows. I was there for like, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes. And I finally was just like, all right, I guess she's not coming.
Wow.
So I leave. I'm driving home. And like, I don't know whether to be upset or pissed or like what.
Pissed off.
And I get a text from her and she's like, sorry, I got stuck at the DMV.
What?
And I'm like,
What?
That's
so
it wasn't like, I'm so sorry. It wasn't a phone call. It was a text.
Yeah, it was a text. She was like, I'm sorry,
was a
I got
text.
stuck at the
Wow.
DMV. And even then I was like, You couldn't text me and just say like when I texted you and asked if we were still good, you couldn't just text me and say you were stuck at the DMV.
I was gonna
And
ask
it's
that.
like,
Like,
you know,
you
oh,
have
my
your phone on you, I'm sure.
my phone was dead or some excuse like that. And I was pissed. And 3 days later, I was talking to her again. But
Oh no.
but it's because it was this, you know, I at that point had convinced myself that like this is the one.
Yeah.
Like this is it. And listen, I'll go into my own struggle. Like I haven't dated anyone in a long time, and I think that plays into it as well, where you haven't been in a relationship for so long that something that's prospective comes along and you're like, this is it. But I think that's even more of a reason to take a step back and try and be rational about it.
So another big thing that I kind of wanted to touch on as well is bringing like your baggage or your emotional baggage from your past relationships, your trust issues and everything like that into your new ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you spend a lot of time with someone who may not have treated you the best, or things just didn't work out. Maybe someone, I don't know, maybe someone cheated on you, right? Now, these things can affect you in the long run, and they'll give you the trust issues to where you think that when you get into another relationship, you're thinking this person's going to do the same exact thing, and that's going to mess with your head. And now, it is always important to remain cautious, but you can't let that bring your whole relationship down. If you let it get to yourself, you let it get to your head, and you're always constantly saying, hey, let me check your phone, let me who are you texting, who are you messaging, who are you going out with, all the time, and just staying down their shirt, whatever, it's gonna wear on them. Be like, and your partner is gonna think that you don't trust them, and that is gonna be devastating to your relationship.
Yeah, and that brings up the whole communication aspect of things, right? Like you need to just be honest with whoever you're talking to, whether it's you're a girl or you're a guy, whoever you're talking to, your partner, right? Like, hey, this is what's happened to me in the past. This is the
I've
feelings,
actually
the emotions.
had this conversation before.
Really?
Because in a past relationship, I was cheated on, and that has carried over into my my recent relationships. And exactly like you said it perfectly. Communication is the one thing that I've used to combat those thoughts that are in my head, because when something like that happens to you, it's pretty traumatic, especially if you're married. So you have these defense mechanisms.
I forgot you were married.
I always forget.
I totally forgot you were married at one point.
It was a while ago now. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
You've developed these defense mechanisms and things that you look out for. You know, the phone. Joe, you mentioned the phone. That's a struggle. Even in my relationship when that was happening, the phone was a big thing, because that was like the piece of communication between her and the other guy. Yep. So it's like whenever, if I'll see Rachel with her phone out, sometimes I have to like keep myself from like looking. I don't always have to see who she's texting. And I think I've done really good. So, you can get over it. We've had that conversation about my past, and that's so important to open up and have that conversation. Say, these are my struggles. I trust you and I love you, and I'm going to do everything I can to not let this affect our relationship. And if it does, I need you to speak to me and tell me about it, because it might just be this defense mechanism that's just coming out and I don't even know about it.
Exactly. And on the flip side, as the other person, you should be comfortable with the other person. Like if one of your phone is dead, you shouldn't have a problem with your partner using your phone. There shouldn't be anything that you need
That's
to hide.
a red flag right there.
Yeah.
If someone's defensive, like, no, don't use my phone.
Yep.
Red flag, right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to get around to. Exactly.
Yeah, good point.
You should also
have
nothing
that
to
conversation.
hide, too.
Yeah, exactly, right?
If you're talking to somebody, especially, let's just say it's a guy talking to another girl, and his girlfriend, who may have been cheated on, says, hey, what's going on? You should be able to tell, because at that point, what are you hiding?
Exactly.
Yeah, you should have nothing to hide. And I, like Rumsey, I've been cheated on, I guess, in the past, and I've been the cheater, and it's not good, right? Both ways suck. So it's important to just have that trust. And like, I'll be totally honest. If I start dating someone in the future, hey, this is what happened to me in the past. This is what I've done in the past. This is what I've done to be a better person, right? Like, there's no password on my phone. You can look at it. Like, I don't care. But yeah, as long
being open.
Right, just be open. And that other person should say, hey, I trust you, right? But you also need to create that openness. Be like, hey, if there's ever a point you don't trust me, talk to me, right? That was my last relationship, right? We trusted each other. I never looked at her phone. I didn't care, right? I was like, I trust you. If you're doing something shady and I find out, like, it's over, right? Turns out I was the one who did something shady. But I think she caught on. Like, I think she didn't trust me. Not caught on. There was nothing really going on until like one point. But I think she didn't trust me, and she didn't communicate that with me. Like, every now and then I'd be like, hey, like, is something wrong? And she'd be like, no, nothing. I'm like, okay. You need to communicate that. Whether you're the guy or the girl or whoever you are, significant other in the relationship, right? Like, if you don't feel comfortable, bring it up. It's a tough conversation to have, yes, but it's important. And that's how you get rid of these red flags, right? Like, this red flag, oh, this person's on their phone kind of being a little shady. Bring it up.
And if you ask that question, if you ask, hey, what's wrong, or is something wrong, ask that question and then shut up. Close your mouth. Like, even if there's a 60-second pause, ask that question and shut up. And I mean, it works. It really does. And also, I want to say that if you are having the trust issues, or if you know that your significant other is having trust issues, you need to tell yourself, this person is not this person from my past.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Just repeat that to yourself over and over until it sticks.
Yeah, because you have, and then not only that, your partner, speaking of like the topic is red flags, right? So say you have trust issues. Yes, that is a red flag, right, for the other person. But you also need to be aware, like that, then it's on you to bring that red flag up, because they're going to notice it 100%, right? If you're always wondering, like, oh, who you texting, blah, 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 they're going to know. You're going to look insecure. Wrong.
I was actually just going to say that too. And I think it's important for you to bring it up first before it's even an issue.
Right.
Just say it, because it's much easier to have that conversation in like a neutral situation, not when you're asking, than if it is if it's like, why are you texting this person? They're my friend. Well, I have trust issues. It's like that's not a good way to have that conversation. Have it early, get it out of the way, let them know, so that when it does come up, they're not caught off guard.
Yeah, because that is a red flag for the other person looking at you, right? So you need to just be honest. And that if you're that other person, okay, I saw this red flag. They brought it up to me, and this is the steps they're taking to be better at it, and this is what's happened to them in the past, so I can help them work through that together, right? So that clear communication, that's one you can probably work through pretty easily and have a healthy relationship because of that. So not all red flags are like black and white, right? But a lot of them are. So it's a communication, right? And you just can't fantasize about stuff. So yeah, you guys got any other points you want real quick?
I do.
While we're on the Randy, I'm gonna
go ahead.
jump in here real quick.
Yours is more important. Go for it.
While we're on the topic of emotional baggage and past relationships, so one time I went on a date, and I think it was about 4 years ago. It was a first date. And this girl, she would not stop talking about her ex-boyfriend.
Ooh, big red.
And not only, I mean, you guys can probably guess what the conversation was about and how it went. I mean, she was just complaining about this guy and how he is responsible for all this mess and all this emotional trauma. And that is a huge red flag, because that person is putting all the blame on someone else and no blame on themselves.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just, I mean, I just wanted to talk about that real
Yeah,
quick.
please,
No,
for
that's
the
a good
love of
point.
God, if you go on a date with someone new, do not bring up your ex.
Yeah, because they're gonna blame you for everything, everything,
Yeah, and
everything wrong. They're gonna blame you. It's
I've
not
done
gonna be
that.
good.
I haven't complained about my ex because there's nothing much to complain about. But I've been the guy who talks about his girlfriend, his ex, at on a date. I'm like, oh shit. So clearly, boom, red flag for the other person. I wasn't over her yet. I shouldn't have been dating. Should have been
Yeah.
trying to date. Like I was not ready yet. Right. I still have to work on myself. Now I'm there. Like we're good. And I appreciate what you said, Rumsey, because you've brought that up before. Is like the whole cheating. It was like when your marriage, you were like, well, it was my fault too. It wasn't just her fault. Like I could have been better. We could have talked about things. Like I could have. You saw it wasn't one-sided, and that's important, right? Like all relationships are two-sided. You know.
Yeah, to put all the blame on someone else, I mean, that's not only wrong, but you're also being insincere to yourself.
Right.
Because
Now,
you aren't gonna fix what issues you have.
yeah.
Uh,
Now, granted, it could be 90% the other person, right? But that 10% you could have controlled.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there were red flags that I didn't notice.
Yeah. And I'm
So
sure there
it's
was.
still
I'm
on
sure.
me.
I mean, you
Oh,
were
yeah.
married at what, 18, 19?
Yeah.
You're probably
Yeah.
too young to even know what a red flag was, my man.
Yeah,
But
I didn't even
as
know
we get
the-
older,
I didn't even know that love language is anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
As we get older, you know, I'm definitely a lot more picky. If there's red flags, I bring them up. I'm not afraid of these tough conversations anymore in my life because it's getting to the point where why wouldn't you just be honest? You know, if you see something you don't like, bring it up. And if that person has insecurities or like shuts down as soon as you bring that up, boom, second red flag, we're done. Perfect. You got your answer. So dating can be difficult, man. Dating is difficult. It's not easy. But it's communication and looking for these red flags, looking for the universe telling you. Rumsey doesn't like me using the term the universe. The universe tells you pretty black and white, right? Well, I don't want to say pretty black and white because then I'm contradicting myself. But you will see signs, and you just got to bring it up and be honest and have that communication.
Oh yeah.
Randy,
So
final points?
I have one more point to make.
Sure.
If you didn't learn enough about red flags from what we've talked about today, I'm sure that there are very many books on red flags and relationships. If you either can't read, like Joe, yep, he raised his hand, perfect. Thank you. If you can't
That's
read,
a red flag,
or
Joe.
if you don't have the ability
Date
to
someone
read,
educational.
if you're too busy at your job and whatnot, you can also listen to books. We had this, Chris. What do you think about? I gotta ask you this real quick. We had this conversation
Sure, go
last
ahead.
week. Is it still books on tape? Do you
Yeah,
still
I
call
heard
it
that
books
in the
on tape?
I heard that in the last recording. I'm like, I
They
don't
still
think that
sell
was-
books on tape.
Dude, it's books on tape. It's books
You
on
have
tape.
to-
Just-
it's so much easier to say books on. I'm
Books
going
on
with
tape.
books on tape.
Let the
I'm
people
saying
know.
it.
yeah.
There's books on tape on Audible.
You know what? You
And-
know what? I'm
yeah.
putting an Instagram story up right now. We're gonna let the people
What's
decide.
a tape?
Do it. All right, yeah. Check out
What's
our
a tape?
Instagram. See the poll. We're gonna find out if it's
Yeah.
books on tape or not.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Books on tape or audio. What's the second
I guess it
option?
would be
Audiobook.
audiobooks.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna be
We're gonna
overruled.
get
on that
audio
one for
file.
sure.
We're gonna get roasted on audiobooks. I'm still saying
still
books
gonna
on
put it
tape. But if you want books on tape for free for
Ooh.
30 days, check out in the description a link to Audible free for 30 days down below. I'm pointing. Thank you, Joe.
It's worth
Thank
it.
you, Chris.
I'm pointing from the future.
He
That,
is
you
pointing.
you
Chris
know
is
it's
pointing
good.
from the future. That's how you know it's good. He can tell you from experience that it's good because he knows about it before
Yes.
we do.
Facts.
So yeah, click that link. Check out Audible free for 30 days.
Nice. Nailed it. And since it is a personal development podcast, Jared Rumsey coined a
Rumsey.
term instead
Hashtag
of
Jared Rumsey.
self-help. Follow that guy. Follow Mark Groves. If there's one thing that helped me through my trauma of my last relationship, one thing that's helped me grow as a person way more than anything else, it's following this man's Instagram page, Create the Love. It's fantastic. He's super smart. We should tag him, dude. Maybe we'll
He's
get a
wicked
shout out.
smart.
maybe he'll learn of us. You know, we're just these little guys, and he's like massive. So follow that guy, watch his videos. You learn stuff about yourself, like way more. He doesn't shit on anybody. It's just how do you work on yourself, and that's huge, right? Sweet.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
Matthew
what?
Hussey. Matthew Hussey is also a good page to follow, and
okay,
as
I
well
didn't
as
even know that.
Lisa and Tom Billiou. They talk about this stuff all the time. They're a married couple, and they pretty much dedicate. Well, I wouldn't say dedicate. A lot of their content is related to their relationship.
That's good, and being open. So with that being said, now don't cut me off anymore. We're done. Wrapping it up from the future. Ready? Might take a little bit to get to you guys. Rumsey, take it away.
All right, this has been Lessons Learned. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Season 3. If you like this, check out our YouTube. If you haven't, subscribe, like,
It's
comment.
also linked in the bio.
Linked in the bio down below. And check us out on Instagram if you want. You can find all our personal pages there as well. And you can find our Linkfolio page to all of our other links. There's a plethora of links. So
That's a
many
big word.
links.
That's a green flag right there. This guy's smart.
Vocab.
Wicked
This
slap.
has been Lessons
It's
Learned.
that.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, see ya. You guys are so bad at it. Just put your palm on your